What is anti-Semitism? It seems odd to ask such a question, isn't it obvious? Well, according to political theorist Hannah Arendt, it isn't. And to understand what she means, we'll have to dive into her book, The Origins of Totalitarianism. Now, anti-Semitism, according to Webster's dictionary, says it's hostility toward or discrimination against Jews as a religious, ethnic, or racial group. But why the hostility? Why did we have to invent such a word for such a phenomenon? According to Arendt, several theories attempt to supply an answer to this question, but each is inadequate. In this video, we're going to go over those three theories that Hannah Arendt poses. The first theory is xenophobic. The theory states that people are anti-Semitic because they perceive Jews to be aliens of the nation. Through their nationalistic pride, they gain feelings of resentment against the Jews who immigrated into their country and are contaminating the national spirit. Arendt disagrees with this. If we look at the 1900s, when anti-Semitism was gaining popularity, the European nation-states were actually in decline. A nation-state is a government that identifies with a certain nationality. For example, the country of America is made up of American people. But this sense of pride in one's nationality was on the decline when anti-Semitism was increasing in the early 1900s. Furthermore, the Nazi movement did not identify as a nationalist movement. Instead, the speeches of Hitler echoed the idea that the Nazi movement was beyond nations, and thus international in scope. The second theory is the scapegoat theory. This argues that Jews were simply chosen to be the enemy due to some arbitrary choice. In order for the Nazis to retain power, they needed an enemy to fight. Therefore, they simply just picked the Jews. This is further illustrated by a common joke that was told in the mid-20th century. It goes, "A man claims that the Jews had caused the war." Well, the other replies, "Yes, the Jews and the bicyclists." The anti-Semite asks, "Why the bicyclists?" The other responds, "Why the Jews?" Now, the point of this joke is that the Jews were chosen arbitrarily, but according to Arendt, this is anything but the case. If we look back at the Nazi movement, anti-Semitism already existed, and the Nazis used it as a tool to gain popular vote amongst the people. And it also fit into their ideology of the superior Aryan race. The Jews were simply seen as the opposite to what they really wanted to achieve. The final theory is the eternal anti-Semitism theory. This says that anti-Semitism has already existed, and thus there's really no reason to explain why the hostility is there. The problem with this answer, according to Arendt, is that it absolves the anti-Semite of guilt and responsibility. Because it's normal to hate the Jews, I can continue hating the Jews. Ironically, this theory also helps justify anti-Semitism to the Jews. The Jew asks, "Why am I hated?" And the answer becomes, "Well, that's just the way the world is." It's a simple shrug-off, and it absolves both the anti-Semite and the Jew of responsibility for the facing of the hostility. Arendt says this really just amounts to escapism. So to recap, we have three theories that Hannah Arendt is trying to rebuke here. We have the xenophobic theory, we have the scapegoat theory, and we have the eternal anti-Semitism theory. All of these are inadequate according to Arendt. Arendt sets before herself a project to explain the hostility of anti-Semitism in her book, The Origins of Totalitarianism, and she says, quote, "Modern anti-Semitism must be seen in a more general framework of development of the nation-state, and at the same time its source must be found in certain aspects of Jewish history and specifically Jewish functions during the last centuries." In short, Arendt says that in order for us to really understand anti-Semitism, we must put it in the historical context from which it was born. Now, Arendt is definitely a controversial thinker, but more importantly, she urges us to think for ourselves. We cannot simply take anti-Semitism for granted in an unthinking manner. We must instead approach it with our full faculties of thought and action and shine a light on it to expose it for what it really is. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. I make videos about philosophy and history, and I cannot do it without your support.